Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my second episode of basic drawing tutorials for pencil. This is just a little recap of what I did last episode, showing you how to break things down into basic shapes. We're gonna use some of that again today. You break things down in basic shapes, and then you draw a dark outline around them, and that will draw the shapes together, make it look like a solid whole. You'll see here in a second as I put a dark outline around the guy. I'm going to go into more details on every body part later on, especially the hands because they're so freaking hard. But I went over that a couple of times last time. Now I'm not a famous artist or anything. I'm self-taught for the most part. I have sold a couple paintings. Okay, I've sold one painting, but I caught up to Van Gogh. He only sold one. Anyway, that was the recap for the last episode. This episode is about vanishing points, and if you notice the two X's there, those are just some example vanishing points. Usually the vanishing point's going to be off screen. You're not going to see it, but for demonstration purposes, I've put them on screen. And you see the box I'm drawing. I'm drawing a box there. And each side of the box is going towards the vanishing point. See, that helps give you perspective about, because as things go farther away, see, these are just some guidelines just to make sure that I'm following the vanishing point, and to help me draw the next box in the line. See, and that box will also correspond to the vanishing point on the other side. Notice I focus those lines, even though they're a little sloppy. Remember, these are just sketches. I'm just sketching these in to give you examples. And this one right here, this is at 2 times speed, by the way, so I may outrun myself. I decided to draw one that's not directly in line with the others, to point out that the vanishing point applies no matter where the object is. See, this one's kind of uphill from the other boxes. And I noticed that since I didn't use guidelines, I kind of screwed it up a bit, and that's the vanishing point I used. So that's why it looks a little funny. So I corrected myself, drew a couple quick guidelines to reach the original vanishing point. And that way I can and erase the screw-ups. Although it seems like I've exaggerated the screw-ups on the bottom there. There we go. Go back with the guidelines. Always use your guidelines. They're very important. You can always erase them later, especially when you're working with pencil. So it never hurts to have them. And while noticing that I had screwed up the guidelines on the first one, on that one I realized I had screwed up the guiding lines on the second one. Now, just to show that the vanishing points apply to everything, I decided to just throw in a quick car, just to show that everything goes to the vanishing point. Everything. This is just a quick sketch of a car. Obviously, I can do better than that. But in the time constraints of a tutorial video on YouTube, see, I skipped straight to the end. A vanishing point on both sides. You notice the back end of the car is wider than the other. Now, usually you don't have 2 vanishing points. At most, on screen, you usually only ever have 1 vanishing point, unless you're doing a really unique perspective for your drawing. So I'm going to use a more practical vanishing point here. Choose 1 vanishing point. The other one's way off in the distance, infinity to the left and right. You can't see those, and they shouldn't affect the streetscape. I'm just gonna draw a little street with some buildings. Just to point out a practical use for vanishing point on screen. So we started out, we got a box. Looks like I followed the vanishing point fairly well without the guidelines. We put a building in front of that one. That's going to be our closest building because I'm running out of page there. And see there. I'm going with some guidelines just to make sure that I'm reaching the vanishing. You don't have to be exact. A lot of people use a ruler and a T-square, and I'll show you that later. I'll show you on the other side of the street. I'm gonna use the line tool to actually draw the lines, and you'll see why I like the sketchiness, the kind of homegrown sketchiness of my feather line rather than a clean straight line. Even though they're not going to be finished, they're not going to be finished sketches. They're drawn in the sidewalks on both sides. This is a really long street apparently, or a guy who's wearing some funny glasses. But you see, starting to put in some just some lines. You know, sidewalks are divided into lines that allow the concrete to expand and contract when it gets hot and cold, and so you need to draw those in. And the closer you get to the camera, which is basically the perspective of the viewer, the bigger things should be, and the closer you get to the vanishing point, the smaller things should be. So these lines in the sidewalks, each individual square should get smaller as it goes towards the vanishing point. And as you can see, I started out wrong on that, and I started to fix it. And so, as you can see, I went ahead and skipped ahead just a little bit there. The lines on the sidewalks are okay. Remember, this is all very sketchy right now. These are just my basic shapes. You always go back in later and draw the and darken in the lines. You add the details, stuff like that. I throw a door on this building, and as you can see, I screwed up on one side of it, but that's okay. I'll fix that later. It needs a window. It's either a storefront, maybe an old pet shop. It looks kind of like makes me think of the. I do not own the trademark to, and do not claim to own the trademark to. YouTube, oh my God, they are so serious about trademark infringement. So be careful what you say if you have a YouTube channel. Don't. And you'll notice here that I didn't use guidelines to line up the windows. I was trying to freehand it, and as you can see, it didn't work out too well. Guidelines are important, even if they're just you know. See, that's closer to the wall, so I kind of had a guideline there. So I went ahead and drew those, even though I made that one a little short. And this one is so far from the guidelines that I'm having to use the other windows as guidelines, and they're just sketches, so nothing's lining up there. I'll fix it later, don't worry about that. Trash cans. What's a city alleyway back there without a trash can? It's a big honking trash can compared to the building. But as I will continue to remind you, these are just sketches to point out the vanishing point and perspective, because these are all very important. So I'm darkening things in. I'm adding in some more details. Skipped around a bit here because this took quite a while. Just the sketchiness of it, even with such little effort put into the actual drawing, it took a long time. You see, I'm cleaning up my feather line there a little bit, cleaning up that door where I screwed it up, because your vertical lines got to match your vertical lines. Otherwise, everything will look off. Put a little double door in there. And I'm just going to add some back shading here because obviously in an alley it's going to be darker. A little cast shadow there. Once again, I'm going to have a shading tutorial. I just couldn't stand to see it like that. Now, once again, something in front of something else is going to have a darker outline. So that trash can is in front of that building, so it's going to have a slightly darker outline than the building itself. Makes it stand out. Sometimes it's a thicker outline, sometimes just darker. But that helps bring out in your perspective that's farther. And that's crosshatch shading there. It's not a very good example of crosshatch shading because I'm doing it quick, or I'm trying to do it quick. Like I said, this video was like over an hour long originally. So we're continuing here. I decided to add a little detail to the buildings. Your buildings shouldn't all just be squares. They all have trim pieces, and they're gonna have, some of them are gonna have gargoyles. They're gonna have little air conditioners on top. They're gonna have Rolox, which are little lips underneath the windows, sometimes along the entire building. But in case you were wondering where the light source was, that's a little arrow indicating the light source. It's way off camera, way up in the sky. It's going to be sunlight, but just wanted you to know that I had chosen a light source. That's going to be important later when I actually do a light source and shading tutorial. So we're going to put a little detail on this building. Once again, you see even the window is going towards the vanishing point. And just a little cheap reflection there. And I believe at some point around here, the pencil starts to really fight me. Something about the program went screwy, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it fought me the rest of the video. So I apologize for that. I'm still learning this software, and hopefully I can get it figured out before the next tutorial. But the window has depth. You can't see the depth on the other windows. You put less detail into something the further away it is. The closer it gets to you, the more detail you put into it. I'm fixing those windows again because it bugs me that they weren't right. So I believe I actually, oops, I don't even know what that does, but I accidentally brought it up. But this is showing the importance of guidelines. I'm gonna, I believe, draw guidelines all the way down and draw the windows from those guidelines, and then just erase the guidelines, and it'll make them look a lot better. It helps line things up. It makes sure to add a little bit of symmetry. And once again, I'm not using a ruler. This is all freehand on a blank tablet that represents the screen of my computer. So where I touch on the tablet, that's where it's supposed to touch on the computer screen. So as you can imagine, there's a learning curve. I'm getting over the learning curve, but I haven't quite. So there we go, getting rid of the guidelines. I'm erasing bits of the window, but I can fix that fairly easily there. Since I can't put as much detail in the windows because they're farther away, I put a little bit of a darker line on the side where I would see the inset. You see how the closest window to us is inset slightly. The same would happen on every other window that's in the same direction. Wow, it skips straight to that for some reason. I added a little balcony to the front of that next building. I mean, not a little balcony, a little what do you call that? Canopy to that next building, just to add some shape. Didn't add a cast shadow under it. That's probably going to bug me later. And I added a building in the background, a little air conditioner on top of this building. And look at me using guidelines like a pro for this next set of windows. And that window's a little higher up. So from the perspective of the camera, I won't see as much of the bottom of the window. I'll only see the side of the window. Okay, here's where I use the line tool on the far side, and it's going to draw some nice clean lines. It's going to make some nice perfectly shaped buildings. For some reasons, it's super thick. I'm not really sure why. I'm going to go with a bigger building here. And it's fighting me because it's at the top of the it's at the top of the screen, and so every time I let go of the little button there, it wants to pop up to the top for some reason. So I tried it the other way around. Start from the back. There we go. There we go. And then we'll put that line straight down for the other part of the building. And hopefully I erase all that. Oh yeah. And then I put the straight lines in. And then I did something that brought up a bunch of menus, and did not want that at all. So we'll get rid of that. Maybe one day. Okay. All right. Remember how I told you it was fighting me for a while? Well, here's where it's fighting me. And it continues to fight me. I'm trying to find the trying to figure out how to get rid of the line tool that I used, that I brought up. And it's escaping me. There we go. There we go. Now I'm erasing the guidelines for those for using the line tool. This is more like a ruler. If you used a ruler to reach the vanishing point, it's a lot more accurate. Your lines are going to be a lot cleaner. But it loses a lot of character. You see the buildings on the left side, they got a lot of character. And the ones on the right, they seem pretty formulaic. And personally, I don't like perfection. And for some reason, the pencil is super hard and making really dark lines. And I didn't mean for it to. So I had to adjust that. Trying to darken in this window line, and it's fighting me. Oh man, is it fighting me. There we go. See, the closer things are, the darker the outline around the objects is going to be. And by far, these are not finished sketches. These are just examples. I was going to draw the bottom there, and then I realized that from the perspective of the viewer, you probably wouldn't see the bottom of that window pane. Decided to draw a little furniture inside the house just to make it look kind of translucent, and then I decided I didn't like that at all, so I just darkened it all in, I think. And even darkening it in was not cooperating with me, so I reduced the strength of the pencil and went in and just darkened it, scribbled in some darkness. We'll go into translucent stuff later once I have a little more control over the software and working with the pad. There we go. I went ahead and finished it in the window glare kind of flash thing. And I don't think I have too much more of this. I cleaned it up a little bit, but kind of just an example of where a vanishing point used actually in the drawing could be practical. But most of the time, your vanishing points are going to be off of the page, well off the page. You're not going to see them, but you are going to need to choose where they are, because everything has vanishing point. I don't know why I drew that arrow again. Not really sure at all. I may end up finishing this sketch just off camera, and going back to it and just finishing out the city street because I kind of like how it looks in the background. Now we're going ahead and add more detail to the buildings in the background. Notice how much smaller the windows are getting as you go away. Who knows how big those windows actually are, but even they need to correspond to the vanishing point, so they need to get a little bit shorter and a little bit further down the building the farther they go. And this may be it. I'm going to show some practical examples of vanishing points I've used in finished pieces of art. Oh, here's where I added some textured shading. I added a little bit of a stucco kind of curled shade in front of that building. The pencil started fighting me too much, so I stopped doing it. Once again, we'll have a shading tutorial another time, and I will I will by then have mastered the pencil, hopefully, on this tablet. I don't even see the cursor moving now. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I am making the lines on the sidewalk worse for some unknown reason. I'm not really sure why. And I think I just finished this up with a stripe down the middle of the street. And I decided let's add a little detail to this building way in the background. And then I realized I didn't need any detail to that building because it was too far in the background. Once something's really far in the background, if you add detail to it, you will kind of screw it up a bit. So I think I undid all of that because I didn't like it. It turns out I didn't like it. I drew a couple quickie clouds up there. There's my email address. I would love to see your own art, especially if any of my tutorials have helped you, and you've used my tutorials to help you draw. Even if you're a really good artist and my tutorials haven't helped you at all, I love other people's drawings. Here's an example of one of my paintings using a vanishing point. The vanishing point, of course, being the horizon. This one as well. You can see how things fade slowly into the background. They get smaller as they go. And don't forget to buy my book, or at least check it out. There's a free sample available on Kindle. If you have a Kindle, there's a Kindle app that's free. I'll see you guys next tutorial. Thanks for watching.